So in this video, we want to explore, under the COVID response 4th edition, this situation. If an organisation had a major nonconformity raised on their last IATF audit, and because of the COVID pandemic, they cannot address that nonconformity within the defined corrective action timescale, what happens next? How does the COVID response, Niall, deal with that situation?
So within the COVID response, there's two things. One is the IATF have given an additional 90 days on top of the existing non-conformity management process for the client and the CB to manage the non-conformity. So for the client to explain what they've done and for the CB to approve that, to close out the non-conformity. If that 90-day extension is insufficient to close out the non-conformity, then there is the option of using this term, it's a slightly odd term, 100% resolved. Now, 100% resolved is an existing term within the IATF scheme, applicable in a small number of cases where, for example, additional time is required by the organisation to fully implement effectively the corrective actions from the non-conformity. What the IATF have done is they've allowed that status to be applied in this case as well. So where clients, for example, have got staff that may have been furloughed and are unable to respond to the certification body, or likewise, the certification body doesn't have the resources to manage the non-conformity right now. So they're allowing that to be 100% resolved. There are some criteria that need to be met for that status to be allocated.
Okay, so Devin, maybe let's just build on that then. So if a non-conformity is going to be 100% resolved, what are the minimum things that the organisation has to do?
Right, so if a certification body is going to consider the non-conformity to be 100% resolved, it has to be due to a few different factors. One, the client is unable to complete the corrective action process, which is defined by the IATF in the Rules 5th edition, section 5.11.1 or 5.11.2, for reasons that are directly linked to COVID-19 pandemic. Secondly, if the client can complete the corrective action process, but the certification body cannot complete an on-site audit for special reasons that are linked to COVID-19 pandemic. Thirdly, the relevant 90-day extension has been exceeded. And lastly, the client submits the evidence that meets the requirements of the IATF Rules 5th edition, section 5.11.3 A and B.
So just to conclude on the 100% resolved discussion then, is there a minimum amount of documentation that the organisation needs to send the certification body?
Yes, there is. So as a minimum, categorised as 100% resolved, there has to have been containment action provided and explained to the certification body and the root cause analysis activity. And these are both described in the rules, section 5.11.3, subsection A and B.
Is there still the need for an on-site verification of the major nonconformity before the next scheduled audit?
Yes, and again, this is a prerequisite for the, let's call it the traditional use of 100% resolved within the IATF Rules 5th edition. But in this case, where it's been 100% resolved as a result of COVID-19, that major nonconformity must be verified by the certification body on site before the next scheduled audit can take place, or really as soon as the on-site special audit is permissible.
Okay, so thank you. So let's just summarize then. So if an organization has an open major nonconformity from an audit, they have an extended nonconformity management period, maximum 180 days. If the organization still cannot show evidence of the closure and the verification of closure then the option is that nonconformity could be 100% resolved, but with the very strict conditions mentioned by Devin. And then for the major nonconformity, that nonconformity will need to be verified on site before the next scheduled audit.